Welcome to Cupcakes and Cashflow, the podcast where we talk to women entrepreneurs and women in business. We'll tell their stories, we'll tell the stories behind the stories, and we'll get to know that person. We'll get to know the real stories behind the business. We'll talk about creativity turning into money. We'll talk about lots of things. We'll talk about life experience and talk about shaping leadership and what it's really like to turn a skill or a talent into business. Well, today's guest, I'm really excited to welcome Annabel. What can I tell you about Annabel? I'm going to get Annabel actually to introduce herself to us today. So that's a bit naughty. Good morning, Annabel.
Morning.
Welcome to Cupcakes. Tell me about you and who you are.
So my name is Annabel Johnson. I am a resident of Lincoln, although you can probably tell from my accent that I grew up elsewhere. I grew up in Kent.
I think when we're not from Lincolnshire, we tend to sort of like, we can recognise that yours definitely isn't Lincolnshire.
Yes. Yeah. But I've been privileged to live in lots of different places in the UK as a military spouse and also overseas. And I love Lincoln.
Yeah. Is that where you think you found your home now? Lincoln
I think so.
is your home.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's something to me about a city that's sort of walkable. I really like to just head out and do what I need to do on foot. And, you know, it's just some really lovely places.
It's quite quirky, isn't it? You know, because
Yeah.
we're so privileged to have the cobbled streets up to the cathedral, aren't we, and stuff. And everybody sort of like, when they used to come for the Christmas market, they go, oh no, we've got to do up steep hill and
Yes.
stuff like that. And sometimes when you live that end, it's inevitable. You've got to go up and down steep hill.
Yeah.
But we're so lucky to have that area of the Bay, aren't we?
Yes.
But there's so many different areas of Lincoln. We just don't explore when we live here. We don't do the whole tourist in our town, do we?
No. And I even just the walkways along the rivers and things like that, the dikes and the rivers. I love the sort of shortcuts that take you away from the traffic. And it's just another world. You've got the swans sitting on their nests and wildlife. And
Yeah,
I've even seen an otter in the heart of Lincoln.
yes, because that's
Yeah.
put Lincoln on the map quite recently,
Yeah.
wasn't it? The fox and the
Fox and
otter.
Yeah.
Wasn't that amazing on
Yes.
Christmas? That was a real, almost like a Christmas tale that you want to animate, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it's sort of like the fox and the otter.
Yeah, I wanted to share it with
Everybody.
everyone I know. Yeah, it was so cute.
Look at the fox and
Yeah.
the otter and stuff like that. I want to take you back to when all this started. You know, your love of interior started incredibly young. Do you think having that childhood experience is why you wanted to do what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to think back to what you enjoyed as a child. And again, I feel really privileged that I'm back to doing some of those things that gave me so much pleasure when I was younger. So yeah, I loved making dens. My dad built my sister and I a tree house when we moved house.
Oh, wow.
They were knocking down a local school and my dad just got some floorboards for free, and we'd only been in the house for a few weeks and he built us a tree house. So that was the start of it, I think.
How old? Can you remember how old you were?
Oh, I was 4. Yeah, I remember
4.
really clearly. Yeah. So, sort of making dens. Oh gosh, I used to just make dens in my wardrobe. Can you imagine like squeezing into your wardrobe? But when you're little, it was like Narnia.
Yeah, because we used to have a clothes area and you put the towel or a blanket over the top.
You took a couple of deck chairs up.
We're showing our age, I think. But, you know, we used to love things like that, didn't we? Just making even
a
out
little
of an
world.
era and stuff.
Making a little world for myself. Just taking my special things into a little space that I created. So I made indoor and outdoor dens. I remember spending my weekends just rearranging my furniture. It was obviously something that gave me pleasure. I had a doll's house. I loved making things for my doll's house. So I think looking back on it, there was a few things that I enjoyed. I enjoyed all sorts of creativity, writing, drawing, and then, you know, that sort of world of interiors. So I did a degree in graphic design and I absolutely loved it. I specialised in fundraising. So I worked in a few different agencies where we just worked with not-for-profits. Do
you think that gives you a real buzz, doesn't it? Because like you say, you're not doing it for any kind of money.
No.
And I guess when the clients come in, they're sort of just made up that somebody's taking the time to do that for them.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you are needing to give them a return on their investment. So, perhaps for every £1 that they spend, you try and get them £3 back. And you're asking their supporters to give money with nothing in return. It is that true sort of altruism. So yeah, we've had some amazing responses to some of the fundraising campaigns that we did.
Yeah.
And met loads and loads of really interesting people,
Yeah, because obviously you said in your intro that you military life and things like that. Do you think, were you ever abroad with the military and things, or were you just based in the UK?
We've been mostly based in the UK, but we did spend 5 years in America.
Do you think that helps shape your, what you do now?
Absolutely. Yeah. Staging is quite accessible, not quite mainstream, but it's very well known in America and Australia. So a lot of homeowners would just naturally stage their homes for sale. And that's where I discovered home staging. And I was talking about this with my husband last night. We used to drive past a really big warehouse, a very old brick warehouse on the way to Atlanta. And it kind of piqued our interest. So we pulled in one day and it was just full of furniture from hotels.
Oh, wow. I love places like that where you can get different and quirky things, don't you?
Yeah. So every time a hotel had a refit, they would see what they could salvage and it would go into this warehouse. And so it'd be sort of marble topped nightstands,
lamps
and artwork, and it was just. And I would say, why wouldn't we buy a little bit of this and put it in a garage and then stage houses? So even at that point, even though we weren't kind of going to settle in America, I was already beginning to think like a stager. And then we did buy a property, and at one point we needed to sell it. And it was empty. And again, we just took things from our own home in the back of this Chevy Suburban, which is a little bit like a sort of minivan. And whatever we could get in the Chevy, we took into the house. And my husband and I set up the house to look a little bit more sort of occupied and homely. And we took our own photos of that and used those for our marketing. So again, I was beginning to sort of explore those concepts of using furniture and accessories to sell house. Yeah. And
do you think it's that convinced you to think, I can do this, I could run my own business by having those experiences?
I don't know about convinced. I think it takes quite a lot of courage to switch careers, but I think in the back of my mind I thought, if I don't do this now, when am I going to do it? I don't want to look back when I've reached some of my retirement years and say,
I wish I'd have done it.
Exactly. So yes, I think that was the push, really, just getting to that point. I think quite often in life, you just reach that point whenever it is, your children are leaving home, or you just had one bad boss too many, or whatever it is. And you just think, I really need to follow my dreams.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you'd have told me sort of like 10 years ago that I'd be working in radio, I'd have my own podcast, I'd go, no, don't be silly. But I knew, even though I was painfully shy, that I wanted to do something like this. Sometimes you just need that little, I can do this, can't you?
Yeah.
I think when you get to a certain age, it's sort of like, I need to do this.
It is now or never.
Yeah.
To see how all your different skills. So, I have a background working in a marketing agency. I have a creative eye, for colour and things like that. So I've basically just retrained myself with some very good staging training, and also interior design. So I did a fast track diploma one summer when I thought, I'll be nice and quiet, I'll spend some time with the kids, and then I saw that there was a fast track diploma starting.
Oh, I bet you thought, imagine that.
3 days time. This is like just a spur of the moment. So I spent my summer kind of cramming interior design skills, which is fantastic, like an international cohort. So when we had our Zoom calls, there were ladies, I have to say, from all over the world. It was really interesting.
How was that? Because I can imagine their idea of staging is totally different to your idea of staging.
Yeah, well, this was pure. It was called professional interior design. Right. So they were
everybody was there to learn,
wanting to do different aspects of interior design. Yes. But I bring that into my stage, obviously, in terms of...
Yeah, because people still don't understand it properly, do they? Because staging isn't, it's getting better, isn't it? It's getting more out there. But a lot of people still don't use it, do they?
No. There's two different kinds of staging. I do mostly unoccupied homes. So they tend to be homes that are perhaps someone's gone into a care home and, they've left some sticks of furniture behind, but it's just not very appealing. It's quite dated.
Yeah.
Or completely unoccupied for whatever reason. And then there's occupied staging. So in America, occupied staging is relatively common, where you work with the homeowner. And that's an area that I would like to get into more.
Yeah. So if there's any sort of body listening that likes Annabel services and stuff like that, we will put all your details on and stuff. I'm jumping in with that one already. And I'm sort of like saying, yes, let's give us some work, in the UK to do all this. How do you, when you go into a client meeting, how would you sell the staging to somebody who's sort of like, well, my house isn't selling, but I need your help, but they're still living in the property? How would a client meeting sort of go along those lines?
So I don't often do occupied staging,
right?
But that is a service that I will be offering. So essentially, there's a couple of different steps. One is to have a walkthrough of the property and just make some recommendations. And it's really up to the client whether they want to take those recommendations on. So I would avoid major sort of redecorating projects or anything that's sort of they're resistant to. So essentially, I can work with their furniture. I think that's a really key thing, that when you're already in quite a sort of stressed emotional state about selling,
because selling houses is one of the biggest stresses out there, isn't it?
Top 3 or 4 things. So the last thing I want to do is tell them they have to, tear everything down and repaint and buy things that they don't want. So really, my aim as a business that values sustainability is to work with a homeowner. There is an element of decluttering and depersonalizing. I think most people are aware of that, and most estate agents will mention that if necessary. So my aim would be to use the furniture that they do have, probably just reposition it, because there's a lot about the flow
so
of the
there's
room.
sort of like not an added cost there, so they've got to go out and buy this piece of furniture and stuff really like that.
Zero cost. It may be that in an awkward room, there might be perhaps one piece of artwork or one bedspread that's really going to pull it all together. And that's where my sort of interior design skills come in. But ideally, I'd just be working with them at a pace that's sort of comfortable for them to really be empowered just to tweak their own home, with the aim that their marketing photos will just be more appealing. Quite often,
because people are attached to the houses, aren't they, emotionally and stuff like that. But sometimes, like you say, when they know they've got to move and they thought, I don't really want to move, so they're emotionally attached, aren't they?
Yeah.
But the house just isn't selling.
Yeah. And it may be that, yes, the furniture is a little bit dated, but there are ways to rearrange, accessorize, take the focus away perhaps from a large 3-piece suite that's sort of blocking you as you come in. Just rearrange the furniture and draw the eye to a focal point that you really want the buyer to look at. So perhaps a fireplace or a patio over some, a beautiful garden or something. So
it's almost like creating a story of that house. It's sort of like you go in and you sort of like, that's the focal point, like you just said, of the fireplace.
Yeah.
And it's creating stories for the house, isn't it, in some way?
It is. Staging, whether it's sort of occupied or unoccupied, is telling a story. It's called staging for a reason. I really love that. There's a little bit of theatre to it.
Yeah.
So it isn't how we necessarily live in a day-to-day way. And I'm not asking people to turn their home into some kind of magazine spread. What I'm saying is, I know you love your sofa there. I know it works well with your TV.
But
when the photographer comes, all he can do is shoot the back of your sofa. And that's just going to spoil.
Yeah. Because you see some houses up for sale and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong. We're not knocking estate agents' photographs. But sometimes it just doesn't do it justice, does it?
No. Well, the photographer has to work with what they're given. Yeah. And unless the homeowner is aware of how their photos are going to look, they're not walking around thinking, oh gosh, when I open that door, the first thing I see is the back of a wardrobe, or a pile of, crates of Christmas boxes or something. So essentially that is what a professional
Yeah,
staging
because
to help
I
with.
remember sort of like a little bit of added. I'd looked at property to rent and stuff like that, and the homeowners were in there cooking, frying their breakfast, and it was sort of like, okay, then I'm not sure if you want to sell your property or not, because you're cooking your breakfast when there's potential people looking round, and I just didn't know what to say or to sort of do. All I wanted to do was get out the property quite quick, because I don't think they wanted to go, Annabel.
There's possibly an element of that. And I think engaging with staging is possibly a step towards, accepting that you are, needing to move. And I think if you've got a property that you would like to make an offer on, the last thing you want is to lose that property because yours isn't selling. That's just the worst. Yeah,
because you've worked on some unoccupied properties that haven't sold, haven't you? And then that you've put your staging, I want to call it craft, your art, into the property, and it's sold quite quickly.
Yes.
So that was quite a good return for you, wasn't it? In sort of like,
it was so gratifying. Yeah,
that's the word I'm going for.
Yeah. So a property that had no offers in 7 months. Sold in 7 days.
Yeah, without saying too much, can you tell us about a property you've worked on? We don't need the names and addresses like that. What, how it started and what you did and that sort of thing.
So that was a good example because the person who approached me was actually the son of an older lady who no longer was using this holiday home, but obviously it was an asset to her in her later years. So you can't sort of underestimate how every penny counts when you're, getting into your later years and perhaps you need some care. So a couple of properties that I staged last year were for people who basically needed the money to look after their care needs. So yes, this was a holiday property. It was in quite a saturated market. So it had already been reduced by £25,000, which is sort of what was happening in the area. It was kind of a bit of a race to the bottom. Unfortunately, my client was from the property world. He was quite experienced, but not in interior design as such. So he approached me and just said, can you give me your opinion on the state of my mum's holiday home and what we can do to help it sell quicker? So using my interior design skills, I went in and gave him a report and broke that down into a scope, and he actually got contractors in to make some decorative changes, which is kind of what it needed.
Yeah.
But I can't tell you, there were sort of broken blinds. There wasn't a cooker in the kitchen, which was fine for this sort of single person, but obviously we were trying to appeal to a family. So there were just lots of things there that were
simple little touches.
Yeah. You want a property to look cared for and to have the utility that people are after. So yeah, and I also turned the third room, which has some kitchen units in it and not very much else. I turned that into an additional bedroom. So that was like a office cum guest room with a day bed.
See, so I think this is just me. Some people have an imagination when they walk into a property whereby other people can't see it, can they? So that's where your magic comes in, isn't it?
I think it is. Yeah. Again, I go back to that sort of staging as theatre. I just see a space and can imagine what would work well there. But at the end of the day, it's all about appealing to the potential buyer. It's not what I want. I'm thinking about the potential buyer. In a 3-bedroom house with quite a small dining room, it's more likely that 2 of the rooms will be occupied and the third one might just be for the occasional guest. And actually, perhaps if you are heading towards
an office.
Yeah, exactly. As you're heading towards retirement, you might want an office and actually put an old-fashioned typewriter in there.
Oh,
so it's like a sort of
I'm now getting ideas for my 3rd bedroom.
Yeah,
it's sort of like just make it into like an antique typewriter and stuff like that. I'm getting ideas now for my own bungalow, and I'm like, oh no. You see, I'm getting that phobia of like, I'm gonna have to spend money here and stuff like that. But that's not the case, is it?
No,
because you can find these things in charity shops and all sorts of things, can't you?
I'm really proud of the fact that normally about 20% of the items that I use in my staging are pre-loved. So I look for vintage, antique and pre-loved items that I incorporate into my staging to sort of lower the carbon footprint. And I also think it's really lovely that in the media now around interiors, having sort of antique and vintage items are really in vogue.
Yeah.
It just adds layers of history and story and texture that you don't get with modern furniture. So I really love that.
There's a programme on BBC One, which we won't name, and I know they go to the tip and they pick up things from, excuse me, they pick up things from the tip and they re-love them, don't they? And, you know, some of them are brought back to life and they've got such history, haven't they?
Yes. I mean, in an ideal world, in the future, I would have perhaps a workshop and I'd have people restoring things. I'm not.
What a dream.
Yes.
What a dream to have.
It would all be part of my sort of sustainability goals and circularity, kind of giving things a second life. But at the moment, it's more accessories. It's quite easy for me to pick up some lamps that have something a little bit different about them. I think that's the thing about not just shopping on the high street as a property stager, but really looking a little bit deeper into those sort of antique markets and charity shops and things. Is you get things that are pretty much unique and give them a new lease of life.
Because I'm a bit of an Art Deco girl myself. I love everything Art Deco. And when I look at like modern takes on Art Deco, I was like, I'd love that. You know, and it's sort of like, because I'm very much sort of 60s type Art Deco and I sort of like period sort of staging, really, I guess.
I love mid-century modern, but I think that's the talent of an interior designer is to blend those things together. And homeowners can do that as well. You know, plenty of people are very successful at, you know, blending perhaps heirlooms with things that they bought just last week.
I think for me also, because I like things different, I've really got to hunt for them. Mm-hmm. You know, it's sort of like, because I like things people wouldn't expect you to have, you know, and it's sort of like, I can't find what I want, you know, and I was like, I just have to keep looking for things because I like things that are very, very different.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to sort of like say with the business and stuff like that, what helped you grow the business, you know, networking, education, word of mouth? Because I know you said you did a course, didn't you?
Yes. So I did a staging course and I am in touch with quite a lot of students from that. So we have a WhatsApp group and it's really supportive. So I've had inquiries that I can't handle and I've said to that person, look, I can probably put you in touch with some people that will stage in your area of the UK, because obviously physical staging, I wouldn't travel 3 or 4 hours to physically stage a property. I'm very much looking to stage within about 90 minutes of Lincoln, which actually covers quite a lot of the east of England.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that network that I'm part of. I'm also in touch with some of the students that I did my interior design course with.
I mean, we've crossed paths, and I know you've crossed paths.
Lots of local networking,
lots of little things and stuff like that. Oh, how are you? And they're sort of from across the room, and you get to see all these people, don't you? And you sort of create a network almost, don't you?
Absolutely. I have a weekly virtual network. I mean, it's virtual, but we're local to Lincolnshire. I do a lot of face-to-face networking. And like you say, you just build up those contacts, don't you? So, and also I do just get inquiries. You know, if you put in property staging or home staging Lincoln, I come up in those searches. So that's really good. Yeah,
because you've got something very exciting you're launching as well, aren't you? Do you want to tell us about what you're up to?
So,
and what you're donating.
Yes. So the donating part is still a work in progress, but there are not-for-profits out there that help link new furniture to families that have nothing. So particularly women escaping domestic abuse. They often leave with, I mean, literally just the clothes on their backs.
It's an absolute lifesaver.
Yeah.
You know, when you can say to somebody, when you've got over the embarrassment of asking for help, to say, I need some furniture, I need a sofa, even the little things like a tea towel or some cutlery, you know, and you're sort of like, wow, somebody's given me some cutlery.
Yeah,
But to have that,
it's really powerful. It's really empowering. So this particular organisation, they're based in London right now. I don't think they've got any plans necessarily in the near future to come into the East Midlands, but very inspiring. So I would like to do something similar. I'd probably start with the basics, perhaps offering children a bed, that kind of thing.
a bed's a big thing.
It's surprising how many children don't have a bed to sleep in. So it's home is so fundamental to our well-being.
You don't realise until it's taken away, those home comforts, like you say, a bed, a pillow. They are such fundamentals in our life, but until they're taken away, you don't think about it really, do you?
Yeah. You
just see it as a luxury. Well, a bed is a luxury in some way.
Yes.
It's something we need.
Yeah. And you can't imagine the sort of sense of self-esteem and self-worth and confidence that having this help gives people. So this particular organisation uses colour psychology and all the things that I'm interested in. So I would really like to sort of replicate that in our area.
Yeah, was that the reason you really wanted to import sort of like social impact into the business and stuff?
Absolutely, yeah. So there's a couple of things that I do now. Obviously, I try to be part of the circular economy. So staging is really a product as a service. So I'm keeping things out of landfill, and also I can offer, investors, landlords, developers, a whole wealth of furniture and accessories that they don't have to buy, that they don't have to store, and they don't have to dispose of when they've come to the end of their
product. Because as a generation, things come in sort of like when you buy from a certain online shop, which we won't mention, the packaging. I know they are trying to reduce their packaging, but some things, sometimes you get inside the box, then there's more paper, then it's inside another plastic wallet, and you think, did you really need all this packaging around it?
It is quite shocking, yeah.
And then you go to the bin, it's like, wow, my bin is full. Yes. And I've only bought 3 or 4 things.
Yeah. I mean, I keep a lot of my packaging because at the end of a stage, if I'm not going to reuse that item in the near future, it needs to go back into my warehouse. So actually, the packaging can be reused in that sense. And sort of going back to sort of giving something back. When I moved into Lincoln from the RAF base that we were living on, I heard about an organisation, a community land trust locally. So in the last year or so, I've joined the board of that, and I head up the property side of what we do.
Wow, so amazing.
There's a few things that we specialise in as a land trust. One of them is developing green spaces in around Sinsel Bank. So we call them pocket parks. They're just very small spaces that are sort of undervalued, and we get permission to just revamp them, make
even
them
just a few
friendly.
Flower pots and things on something.
Fruit trees, paths. Some people in our organisation hold events for the local children, and if they can be outside, they will be outside. So we do a lot of events where, we just help children explore nature. But the property is the other big one. So looking at developing a small portfolio of houses for Lincoln's most vulnerable families, really.
That would be amazing.
And we work with an organisation that helps identify those families.
See, it's things like this. This is why I do the podcast, because it's things like these little gems, these little nuggets we never get to hear about.
I know.
Do we?
And I suppose we should do better at the social media side of things. So I think people in our area, in the Sinsel Bank area, are aware of us. We do litter picks on Sinsel Dyke, so we're sort of fishing bicycles out.
I've seen you. Yeah. I've seen you down there with your vest on and your hooks, and you're getting things. It's quite amazing what they pull out of the river, isn't it? Because I used to live on the river and I'd see them and stuff like that, and I've seen them pull, I'm not going to mention, but all manner of things have come out of that river, haven't they?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's that sense of kind of looking after environment, looking after green spaces, and offering secure, well insulated, well equipped homes, which sort of brings me back to, people having access to carpets, beds, cookers, there is a lot of disadvantage out there.
Yeah, because a lot of social housing, I'll put that out there, we're not knocking social housing or anything like that. But a lot of properties are given over to people now, and there's no carpets. Yeah. There's nothing in there, and it's cold, bare floors. Yeah. And a lot of people still live in, with cold, bare floors.
Yeah. So, as a community land trust, we're essentially working with the agencies in Lincoln to ensure that we give the tenants,
I feel another podcast coming on Annabel on that one.
Yeah. So digressing slightly, but again, it puts my skills into use because I have worked with contractors before. I've worked with Airbnb owners, creating electrical plans, lighting plans, all those kind of things. So I'm kind of bringing all sorts of skills to this not-for-profit to ensure that when it's ready, it's homely. Because even colour, a lot of people who've perhaps been in hospital, been in prison, been in refuges and shelters, certain colours can be quite triggering. Quite institutional. So it's things like that I've learned recently about, trauma, design for people who have experienced trauma. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm a colour girl. I absolutely love my colour. I can't help it. Hence why Cupcakes is pink and purple, because purple is my colour. I'm drawn to purple, and I've since learned that it's a healing colour. Purple is a healing colour. And I'm very much drawn to purple.
Yes, there's so much about colour psychology. I love it, and
it's probably why my walls at home, when the decorator comes, I want to make them orange because I want that 60s vibe.
Yes,
I just absolutely love.
It's very energetic orange. It's very stimulating. So we do have an emotional response to colour. So there's two aspects to my business really. Property staging, I would say, tends to be quite neutral. You're going for something that is going to have broad appeal. It's going to have broad appeal, unless you've got some kind of inner city loft where you're looking for like a 35 to 45-year-old, and then you can kind of push the boundaries.
That's the thing, isn't it? You have to to sell it to everyone.
Knowing who the audience is. But in terms of interior design, which is another service that I offer, particularly to Airbnb owners and small developers and stuff, thinking about colour and, what people are looking for, particularly renters. Renters aren't really looking for white boxes with grey carpets anymore. And that's something that I want to sort of offer, businesses is colours and surfaces and finishes and products that will stand the test of time, but just set their business apart. They can sort of create their own brand using an interior designer like myself.
Oh wow, that's absolutely amazing and stuff. And where can we find you if you want to give out your website details and things?
Yes, so my business is called Annabel Co Property Staging. My website is annabelco.uk.
And we will be putting all Annabel's details on our website and also all over our social media. And because it's Cupcakes and Cashflow, we have a little game that we play with our guests, just sort of wind down the interview. So if you're ready, Annabel, I will ask you these questions. And excuse my audience if I'm looking down at my iPad because it's the only way I can do it. Okay, right, quick fire. Coffee or tea? Or neither?
I love tea. I prefer green tea.
I'm a green tea girl.
But I love the smell of coffee. Yeah. So, yes, I don't drink coffee anymore. But
no. It's nice to the house as well. That's what people used to say, isn't it?
Baked bread, coffee,
everything.
Yes.
Old wives' tales, wasn't it?
It's a whole sensory experience, I think. It's a funny thing, but I remember looking at the house that my parents bought when I was 3. It was probably a few weeks off my 4th birthday, and I remember the smell.
Yeah, my grandparents' house.
Yeah. So it's important. I mean, homeowners know, don't they, if they've got pets or they've been cooking or whatever.
Or don't be frying a breakfast. Yes. Don't be frying a breakfast. Minimalist or maximalist? Okay. I can't say that. Minimalist or maximalist. I can say that.
It is a little bit of a mouthful. I have I would say minimalist for myself. I like calmness. So I'd say my home is on the minimalist side. But since really investing in that sort of interior design training, I have really embraced colour, and I'm excited to use it for other people, but just not in my own home. So yeah, bit of a dichotomy there.
One word that sums up your work. One word.
One word.
One word.
I'm going to quote.
All right, I'll give you two.
I'm going to quote a client that I helped in the autumn, and she said, "What is two words? Life-changing,
Wow,
or transformational." Because I think a lot of people come to me when the chips are down. You know, they've not been able to sell. Yeah, they've not been able to sell a property. They've experienced that stress, and when I come in a stage and the property sells, that one sold in 10 days.
That's amazing.
It's been on the market on and off, you know, just things didn't work out. It'd been on the market for about 18 months. So yes, for that person who was selling on behalf of a lady in care, it was a real big emotional burden. So yes, for her, she said life-changing.
Biggest win so far? Biggest business win so far?
Probably the holiday home. It wasn't the most expensive house that I've staged, but the fact that the estate agent has essentially said, let's reduce it by 50,000 from the original.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, from the original asking price. So by not reducing it, the extra 25,000, I essentially helped him save that money.
And I'm going to digress a little bit because you've just opened a question up there that I think I need to address. When the estate agents, you've just said he wanted you to reduce it by £50,000. Are estate agents coming to you more to sell the properties, or are they leaving it mainly to the homeowners or the landlords? Or
I don't think estate agents are very aware of property staging. They probably can see the value of doing it in, say, properties over $500,000. But in my experience, most properties get reduced by the tens of thousands at a time. So even if your property is worth, say, 300,000, it's probably going to be reduced by 10 or 25,000. And staging only costs a fraction of that.
I was going to say some plants and just moving a few, I'm putting it very bluntly, moving a few bits, just even investing in one signature piece could sort of save you thousands being knocked off your asking price, couldn't it?
Yeah.
So if there's any estate agents listening or watching, Annabel is waiting for your call. Okay. Finally, one thing that keeps you grounding when business feels overwhelming, or you're feeling sort of like, oh, I'm a bit overwhelmed with things today. One, I might give you two things.
Okay. So I try, and I think a lot of people will understand that sometimes I fail. I try to get out of bed an hour early.
I think we all do, don't we?
And do an hour of things for me. So that includes yoga. So, listening to a podcast, journaling, yoga. So that's my hour in the morning, which I struggle with in the winter, but I do appreciate that hour on my own in the morning. And the other thing is I'm a member of the Military Wives Choir.
Oh, that's amazing.
So that's just lovely. It has that connection with other military spouses. Plus we do quite a few concerts throughout the year. So
another one I'm going to have to get her back on. I think Annabel will be filling my diary. When I go back to filming, sort of recording Links, Flyers, Natters videos, I think Annabel's going to be back. With the military choir and your land trust one. I think she's coming back. She'll be back on Links, Flyers, Natters in March for to talk about these other things and stuff. Annabel, it's been an absolute pleasure, and like we just said, I think she's coming back.
That'd be great. This has been really wonderful.
Thank you for being such a good guest and giving me such an interesting subject to get my teeth into. If you just want to sort of give your website out, or your website address out again, so people don't say we didn't say it.
Yes. Yeah. So my business is called Annabel Co Property Staging. So my primary product is unoccupied staging, but I'm also a trained interior designer, and you can read more about what I do and how I help people with properties at annabelandco.uk.
Yeah, like Annabel just said, if you want to learn more about her work and what she does, you can find her on her social media, which we will put on our websites. Annabel, thank you again. And also thank you to our tech team, because we're in this lovely new podcast studio and this was going to be our home for a little while. So I'd like to say thank you to the Barbican Creative Hub for letting us use this incredible space.
Really lovely
It's
space,
a
isn't
lovely
it?
space.
Yeah.
And it's the first time we've used it. And Annabel has given her seal of approval to the space as well. So we've had a property
designed.
property staging thing has, Annabel's been in here. But once again, thank you to our tech team. Thank you for staying with us and listening. You can find us where you get your podcasts, because we're on most platforms, because there's quite a few platforms out there now for podcasts, that you can find us on most of them. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll see you next time on Cupcakes and Cashflow.